on our big Italian Licino trees at the top. But as we walk down here, I'll point out the different varieties.
So what was your pH?
I had tests done when I first came to the property in one other stage, but I haven't tested for 10 years now. But with olives, you have to put it on every year. It's pretty well guaranteed, yeah.
High pH.
Yeah, they like a high pH, olives do. Yeah.
What was the pH to start with?
It was quite low, 5.9 to 6.1, I think, to start.
That's about right for us too, yeah.
Yeah.
Very low.
Yeah. Nick is just down the road here. You still there, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just down the road there. And yeah, our properties are quite similar in terrain. Yeah.
Mate, when you have a heavy soil, you have to put more lime to lift it one number.
Yes.
Then when you sandy soil, a little bit, and it lifts it two number.
Yeah, it can leach it. But I understand from my farming background that you can't put on more than 400 weight per hectare, otherwise you'll lock up other minerals in the soil.
Yeah.
So don't overdo it, but you've got to keep doing it on a regular basis, I feel. So pass your pass.
Used to have 100 weight hectares.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. This here is my first olive tree that was gifted me by my son, and it's 20 years old. It's a J5 tree, and usually yields us 2 crates, which is about 40 kgs of olives. A little bit lighter this year, but when you stand back from the tree, and certainly when they turn a darker colour, you can really make them out. But it's got good yields in there.
Is it prone to splitting?
Pardon?
Is it prone to splitting in the wind?
No, I was using that to lift that pump over there, dear. It wasn't splitting. I told you I'm an alternative.
It's obviously quite strong.
These are a crop of Licino olive trees right through here, and these have got a lighter crop this year, but these are a younger lot. I did have the Barnea variety here, but does not work on this property. Get a lot of tip dieback and problems with the olives. So I took all those out and I replanted in the Italian Licino, which works very well on this property.
So how old are these trees, Greg?
They perform quite early in life. Of course, as they get older, they produce more, but generally I thought 5 years for a bit of a crop off them, but I
This would
found
be
they actually produce earlier than that.
18 years old. Oh.
Yeah, good. I've forgotten the name of that, thanks. Yeah, I have put boron on, yeah. I've just been reminded of what else that might I have put on. I did put boron on, both for fruit set and those trace elements were missing from the soil in the soil tests that I did have done. So early on, those many years ago, I did correct that, and every 2 or 3 years I will put a bit more on, yeah. It's what? Yeah, they're just turning now, yeah. Mm.
What you got here, Greg?
Midler.
Yes, it was just pointed out to me by somebody who's got a better memory than me, and it's Sharon. She's just pointed out the medlar tree over there. I'd forgotten it. Yeah.
Yes.
What is that? Yeah. So that's the one that's fruiting over the back corner there. Just behind, or adjacent to that, is an old Batley peach, and that's a very firm peach, a good preserving peach, but also tasty when it's fully ripe as well. Batley peach, you've probably never heard of it, but it's one of the old heritage peaches. And this little citrus grove here, which struggles a bit at times, I'm just trying to get that a bit better, but over the back of them we've got
Do you want me to carry this?
Tahitian limes there, and there's good money in those at different times. And the kaffir lime leaf over the very back. So the Licino go down here on the hillsides, and you'll
One
notice
day I
the
just
olives were deliberately
found
planted
on
the
internet
hillside.
that some people using
After having
midlar
taken
this
soil test, but
for
I
the
did come
tea.
here with a spade on
To
my
make
shoulder
tea?
to buy
Yeah,
it.
to make tea.
And I had a
Otherwise,
look
what do you do? Do you
everywhere,
eat
and I
or
noticed that down in the garden,
normally?
Apparently it meant to become like dark and
Very soft.
so accordingly,
very soft
in
before you
planted
can
seeds
eat
that
it.
fit that terrain.
And just
Got the battle half
whe-
done for a start.
once I
That's all
said
right.
I would
Go down
like
the gully, mostly all the way down,
Midlar,
where the moisture
Greg bought
takes
it,
what they
so it's
can.
why we have
That's
it.
why they produce so
So
well
the
without having to
top's
look
eaten
after
by
them.
insects
Olives,
at
doesn't
night.
matter, they can come up on the hills. They don't need that as long as they've got some drainage.
Try to
They
make
don't
jelly.
need the moisture.
I didn't.
This
Did
is
you
the
try
Greek
to do
olive groves
anything?
Here, the little coronations,
haven't got a
little
tree like
block
this.
here,
All right.
You don't eat them
and they're on
raw.
the poorest hill. on
No.
the property.
Maybe have to
Imagine
Well, they
that.
have to be
That's the
become
struggle in Greece.
soft.
Squishy.
So,
ugly.
and they've done well here. Again, not
Medlar.
the crop this year that we had last year, but they've got a certain amount on it. When you get down to the bottom, look back at the trees and the olives stand out much more prominently.
You
They don't
graft
look
them
much
on
from here,
Hawthorne,
but
is it?
Pardon?
can't make them out.
You graft them onto an Hawthorne?
No, we already bought. It was done tree. We didn't graft
No,
it.
didn't graft it.
Yeah.
They're
It's
pretty uniform,
could be
apart from
different
last year
seasons.
when we got a huge crop.
So this is the limes we have.
Pardon?
So you see.
The tree, yeah, not too sure. The trees were planted north facing, that's north up there. Where's north? Up that way, straight out there, up towards Tarong. And what I did do was plant the pollinator trees, which is the Spanish manzanillo, is a good pollinator. I planted them every sporadically around the place because olives are pollinated by the wind. They don't need bees. Bees will help, of course, but they don't necessarily need them. So the wind would pick up the pollinizing pollen from the pollinator trees and cast it back up this way over the ones that needed it.
So
that
this
was
is
the
how we
principle
grow
of planting
olives.
here. Plant your main crop of what you wanted, and the odd pollinizer in there, wind directed onto the other trees.
Do you do anything special with the manzanilla, Greg? I find them very nice for pickling.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Good.
To me,
Yeah,
yeah, to me they're lovely.
yeah, they are nice. A smattering of different citrus. That's a grapefruit there, I think, and this is another big grapefruit. This one, but from here down, we've got the Seville orange, and you may have heard of that. It makes a wonderful marmalade. And Siva here is the queen of marmalade. Besides Olia making the best marmalade, Siva's a queen of the Seville orange marmalade. Yeah. So these are all Seville oranges, which really should be off the trees by now to allow the new crop to come on. So by all means, if anybody wants any Seville oranges for marmalade, it's getting at the end of their season for the pectin content, but you can always chuck a bit extra in. So you're welcome to take some of these Seville oranges, and there's 5 of the trees down here. As you move down this way, you'll notice a bit of a hump of, but it looks like a bit of a seed mix, and that's all the waste pulp pressing out of the olive press. So we just dump it down here, and you can use it for fertiliser, but it really needs lime added. But my son took some for his pigs one year, and they ate it, and they're still living. So,
Say about mushrooms.
but they're doing tests on what we can do with the waste olive paste out of an olive press. Some tests going on in Morocco at the moment, because they're one of the industries that hasn't really done that well on finding a use for the byproducts. New Zealand dairy industry, which I've been involved with, is a leader in that field, and now the wine industry, they're using grape skins and they're using the seeds for oil and all sorts, but the olive industry hasn't really stepped up to follow through on that. So let's hope some tests come out of this Moroccan experience.
I don't think you make much money, but just have enough saviour in olive oil.
Looking back in the native bush here, we've got 6 acres of native bush here, which is all under covenant. You'll see 2 wonderful big rimu trees in there. You can pick out the foliage. This little sidewalk down through the bush goes down to the base of them there, if anybody wants the time afterwards. But 2 magnificent species of rimu there. Most of this native is tawa in here, with a little bit of pururi, a little bit of rewa rewa, which makes wonderful honey, according to the bees we've got on the property. But those 2 rimus in there are quite a feature of the property.
Which variety do you think that is, Greg? Just got to cut. strong looking leaf.
Yeah, this olive here is a brownie, and doesn't really do too much here. There's 3 of the trees here which we've never really done much with, so we don't really harvest these ones. They haven't been good performers for us. We've stuck to our traditional 5 varieties that work really well.
Looks like one of the ornamental ones. I see people have sort of olive trees in their grounds, and it's just that lovely dark green
Yeah.
leaf.
Yeah.
We're using leaves out of it.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lovely looking leaf.
Yeah, we're making extracts and then we're distilling it and we're using it in cosmetics.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Right. I've heard people put the olive leaf in to make cups of tea, and I tried it one time. It's
yes.
pretty bitter.
It is bitter.
I must have another
yeah.
go at it again,
Yeah.
but people said it's terribly good for you to put
It
some
is,
olive
it
leaves in
is,
your cup of
yes.
tea. So.
Just down below and nearing the bush there, you'll notice these big trees here. They're the Wilson Wonder Walnut, and they're very close to dropping the nut. So they a magnificent nut, full of taste, great. And the beauty is you don't have to get up into the tree to harvest them, of course. So they'll just open the outer shell and drop the whole nut on the ground down there. And the idea is to pick them up every day before they get dirty. But those 3 big trees there perform wonderful for us.
Lovely way to fill a gully. It
Yeah,
just
it is.
grows up.
I don't
And
Yeah.
see any black shells.
No, there isn't any black shells.
That's a bacteria, is it?
Yeah, well, they'll open up anyway. No, they're good condition. Yeah, yeah. No, they're very clean nut. Also down in the gully there, you'll see all the fig trees growing well down into the gully. They got a bit shaded in the last couple of years, so don't perform that well in the very bottom. But we've got, and Mrs. Williams in there, and a couple of Brunswick. And over the other side, you see the different leaf over there. That's the Adriatic fig, which is quite a perfumed fig, with a bright purpley colour inside. They only perform on this side of the tree where they've got enough light, which is very interesting. They really like the light and the sun. So where they're in the shade of the olive tree there, they don't actually sprout much in the way of fruit off the tree. So it's a good example really of should plant in the right place what the tree likes, not where you want it.
Cheo will tell you you're harvesting sunlight.
Can people still hear me all right on this? Okay, good. These are probably 3 of our best fig trees here. This big one that's darker green there obviously likes it a little bit lower down where it's getting more moisture than the other 2. That's the mother tree of the Brunswicks, and these 2 here I took cuttings off that tree and started those 2. So those 3 Brunswick trees, the 2 on the right, are struggling a wee bit with the dry that we had earlier on this year. And you're most welcome to pick a fig off the tree. Just pick the brown ones, feel them if they're soft and ripe. I left some on so you guys can help yourselves to them. So feel free to taste the figs as you go, and there'll be a lot more as we go further up the property. We've got French sugar figs up there and Mrs. Williams figs. But if you find a ripe one and you haven't tasted a fig before, feel free. Don't be shy.
Do you prune the tops out of them?
These trees take very little pruning. They're very good at not growing mad. They grow long stems like that, which are very easy to pull down to pick. And so we don't mind big trees here. So these take very little pruning, these ones. The Mrs. Williams and the, what do you call them? French sugar, that's a different story. They can grow like mad. The same with the black fig. That wants to grow. That grows.
I've got one fig tree. It fruits really well, but it's got really big.
Yeah. You can,
So can I prune it?
yeah, prune it back hard, but not everything all at once. Otherwise you lose your fruiting wood. Yeah. Yeah, prune fig trees hard. I know people who do. You have to. Yeah. Down through this way here.
Beautiful.
Are you all still remembering there wasn't a tree on the place?
Wow. Which year did you plant?
20 years ago now. Yeah.
So this is the olive grove we're walking through.
So this is one of the main olive groves here, down through here. As I said, we've got different varieties. And just above Margaret here, there's a manzanillo tree, which is the Spanish round olive that's been mentioned earlier. And they're a good one to pickle green. That's what you'll find on the supermarket shelf, pickled green. So those ones make a lovely pickling olive, but they're also a good pollinizer tree. Is pollinizer the right word, Bill, or pollinator?
Pollinator.
Okay.
Pollinators the bee.
Right, okay. And on this side, just above this area here, above Dean, that's a pendolino olive. Again, a good pollinator for
Everything.
for Licino, Frantoio, yeah, all the other varieties of, especially Italian olive. So that's why the odd one of those are planted. They're a smaller olive, but they usually produce a lot of fruit.
Greg, have you pickled green olives?
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about using sodium hydroxide and things.
Since I have to wait 6 months till I get my olives
Right.
in brine,
Yeah.
but it's worth it.
Okay,
There's a washing process you do first to release all the acidity,
right.
and then they go in a natural mix of brine.
Yep.
The commercial way, and as the locals went up to Simonovich in South Auckland to learn how to make olives as good as I was doing them, they taught them how to do them with caustic soda
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get them on the shelf in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
refuse to do that.
Yeah. 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 That was a Manzanillo too. I can see you on Manzanillo.
Here are all the lovely Licino trees. Quite an aesthetic tree.
Generally, I wait till they're beautifully shiny black, but I mean, that's it. I've never used.
What sort of mower do you have?
The mulching mower.
A mulching mower?
Yeah, on the back of a little four-wheel tractor. Four-drive tractor. I bought it second hand. 20 years I've had no trouble.
Fun mower.
Yeah, it is,
I
yeah.
have a coyote.
Oh, okay.
Plant them on all the hills.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Slow.
That'd be good. I've got some steep areas.
This is Lucina, Italian variety. This is quite a big group today. Quite a big group today, huh? Lovely.
This is the Lobo apple. See the red Lobo.
Yeah, okay. All right. Come through, but I didn't point out anything down in the bush. Yeah. We'll talk more about the pigs and the birds on the way back up. Just down here I've got a few extra trees. For many years I've been trying to get a large olive to be able to pickle in brine. These are quite thickly overgrown Licino olives on your right if you're still walking down. Those do need extra pruning out from in the centre. These are very thick, and I partly purposely didn't prune these to show you how thick they will grow. A little bit more moisture down in this ground here, so they grow prolifically. But you can see they throw up a lot of internal branches and completely block the tree. Now that's not ideal for either production or fruit size or light into the tree or anything really. So those should all come out. So selectively pruning out your branches inside the tree is very important to end up with a vase-shaped tree. Much the same as, well, this one here is a good example of opened out tree. There's a few little branches growing up like water shoots in the internal, and they have to come out because next year they will just be thick in there. So pruning is twice a year, straight after harvest, and during harvest actually is the first part of pruning. So we'll get olives form on those top branches up there that we can't quite reach. So I'll get the long ladder and I'll just cut those, drop them on the ground, and the kids will scrape them off in their gloved hands. They love doing that on the mats. And then we can pick with our long rakes after that. And I've got a picking harvesting process set up the top there, we'll see on the way back, for those people who want to know how we harvest properly. So that's the first stage of the actual pruning, is to prune the high branches down because they're the ones that are usually loaded with big olives. So I don't want to prune them off now, we'll wait till harvest. Then we have to go through after harvest and cut out any of the branches we want for the shape of the tree to keep it open. But then again, at this time of the year, they're already throwing branches up in the inside, growing prolifically, because we're not in Greece or Italy where it's dry and hot. So these are growing much faster here. So we need to do that main second pruning again. Like the Frantoio up the driveway, they've been mostly done further back, but these on this side, facing the bush here, they hadn't been done. So see how thick they are with all the growth in there. So some of that needs to come out for light, fruit set, and every reason for, you know, that's incorporated in growing a good fruit. So those are too thick, those trees. Picheline, which I waited 10 years for fruit off a French Picheline, got fed up with it, got no olives, so I cut them out, but left 2. Guess what? On the 11th year they fruited. So I'm not going to make the same mistake with these. I'm hoping for a bigger crop in the future.
Is it nice and bright?
Yeah, lovely. It takes longer in brine for a green olive to get to the proper taste that should be. Usually it's 6 months for a black olive, 5 to 6 months. But so I've got some up there that's almost taken a year to have them come right. Yeah.
Keep tasting that.
Yeah, there's only half a bucket left now.
Greg had a wasp sting on his face, that's why he's wearing glasses.
And if anybody's interested, I know nobody's probably interested in olives or putting them in brine or anything, but I can give you a good fail-safe recipe. A lot of people have tried doing the olives and they don't do the washing process first, which is most important, and they end up with a different olive at the end of it, wondering why. So there are several ways of doing it, but I've proved that mine are fail-safe and they're just absolutely lovely olive at the end of it.
Put it in the newsletter.
Yeah, it should do, yeah. Okay. Here is probably a better pruned, except for a little bit of secondary pruning I have to do. The trees are very open down here. We had a lovely crop off this last year, this little grove here. There's 3 varieties in here for good pollination. There's the all Italian varieties, Pendolino, Licino and Frantoio, all 3 varieties. But the Licino is a good olive to grow for oil, and it does a lovely pickling olive as well.
And what do you have here?
I used to have some olives in here as well, but I really wanted to grow some plums on a good level as well. So these are the Louisa plum trees here. There's 2 rows of those, 17 trees, and I got those from McGrath Nurseries up in Cambridge. And they're wonderful producers of huge fruit, very much sought after now. They seem to have come back in vogue. You won't see them in the supermarket because they don't have a good shelf life. They have a thin skin and very fleshy, juicy fruit. They don't have a good shelf life.
So what was the variety?
Louisa.
Oh, Louisa.
Very popular. And there is a self-fertile tree. You don't need another plum, unlike most other plums. So they grow very easily on their own and huge amounts of fruit. Large fruit. Except for a couple of Orion plums which have got up the top, or Omega, sorry. So the Louisa are the last ones. These are 2 rows of sultans here, which produce prolifically as well. They're looking a bit sad now, the end of their season, of course, dropping all their leaves. But again, down in the little wet area down there, and the ground changes, those end ones down there are lovely, huge, big fruit on those, and a little bit drier up this end, bit smaller fruit. So figs love moisture. Figs love moisture, but also the plums like a bit of moisture.
This is your pollinators, first row.
Yeah. Then we've got Purple King, a couple of Purple Kings in here, and what's the green one called down here?
Green gauge.
Green gauge plum down the end there. These also grow pretty prolifically with long branches too, and Purple King, I'm not overstruck on the taste of that. It's not a wonderful plum to grow in my opinion, But the sultans, all the sultans go to a winemaker at the end, and he makes this lovely plum wine. Normally I'd have nothing to do with fruit wine much, but he makes a lovely wine off those sultan plums. So, and gives me a number of bottles back again, so that's nice. Bartering is alive and well in the hills. Just down here we're entering into a Spanish olive grove down here. This is the Spanish picual. And these are quite a large olive. And if you look up into the tree, they're not on the lower branches, of course, in the shade, but up into the tree, they're quite heavy concentrations of olives here. Hard to make out when they're still green, but when they turn black, they're much more obvious. But lovely big olive, and they make a good mallow oil, not as strong and powerful as the Licino Frantoio oil, the Italian one, but make a mallower oil, but a lovely olive to grow for pickling and for oil. And they come off the trees very easily, have a very good ability to come off the tree, so they're very easy to harvest. And being a big olive, you just seem to get tons of them.
What was the name again, Greg?
Picual, Picual, a Spanish variety.
And it will be ready in June.
Yeah, very light, very late producing variety, usually the first week in June. So anybody who's frost tender in their area has got to be a little bit careful about planting these ones. But here we've only had a few wrinkly olives at one stage. Mostly we've been good, but a very late olive. So normally our olive harvest goes from about the middle of April, when the first lot are ready. We do an early pick of, I didn't tell you all my secrets, but we do an early pick of Tuscan style, we call it, of the Licino olive. Now that is high in a peppery taste and got all different antioxidants and tastes in it, and but it's quite a peppery finish. Again, probably a month later, we will pick the same variety of trees again, and we'll get a more mellow, fuller bodied taste off the same olive in its fully mature state. Later, I will probably blend a bit of them both for just a full taste. But according to the time of harvest, if you harvest your olives, you can get a very strong peppery taste or a more mellow, full-bodied taste. So it's your option how you want to work with your harvesting. But over the last 15 years we've been harvesting, we've found a good way of getting a lovely tasting oil to suit all tastes really. And our last year we had enough to be able to put aside a bit of bulk oil, and we had a truffle company come along and taste our oil and then disappeared. We didn't hear a thing from them, and they rang one day and said, "Oh, can we have a look at your commercial kitchen? We'd like to make one ourselves." And I said, "Yeah, sure, I offered you that." They came back, they were here 5 minutes and said, "Well, actually we've been around tasting everybody's oil, we want yours." So they came back and bought a 50-litre container, and then came back and bought another 25 later. So we've got our olive oil, last season's olive oil, and here with Black Diamond truffle oil this year. So that's been a nice thing for us to have that success. So olives seem to work well in the Bay of Plenty. So it works. This is the end of our olive grove here, but we've got a number of different interesting growing things here. What we have grown is a couple of bay hedges. That's for the bay leaf, but the bay tree will grow into a large tree if you allow it. But we keep trimming that back. And just for your information, Robert, it's wonderful firewood. Burns beautifully. And up in the courtyard you might have noticed a wood-fired barbecue under construction there. It's Argentinian style. We've tried this out before, and I've read it in an Italian book. You burn your bay leaves on the fire in your bay tree, twigs and wood. That fumes up mostly through meats, but capsicums and things, but chickens and all sorts, and that leaves the most wonderful taste in your meat to produce a lovely wood smoked barbecue taste by burning the wood fire with the bay tree. So that's why the bay trees are planted. It follows an old Italian tradition of burning the bay trees in their wood fires.
So we're going further.
Yeah, just a
Smoke
little
your
bit. Yeah.
You can smoke your olives.
Yeah,
Hey, smoked olives.
don't give me more ideas than I have.
Let's take into the Greek coronekis again. Tiny little olives, that wonderful oil.
We got one like that.
So this
These
is
trees down here, it's another
Manzanilla,
little
round
little
one.
bunch of the Greek koroneki. And I
And
must
this is
admit that I got a lot of my
koroneki.
inspiration for growing olives and the taste for olive oil in Greece.
Koroneki is
probably
small
30,
olives,
40
very
years
lovely
ago.
oil.
I love the Greek olive oil, and these olives, although they're tiny, they make a lovely oil. So that's quite sought after in that. They produce really well. You can see quite a smattering of it through there. Again, it's lighter than other years. They're usually absolutely covered in there. So we're just having a lighter year this year, partly because we pruned very hard last year, and partly just because of the pollinating conditions. If we get rain, a lot of rain at the time of pollination, then that's going to get washed on the ground. So you're a little bit at the mercy of nature at the time. So if we got rain for over a week, if this was in its main pollinating period, we'll lose out on a number of olives, but we can't avoid that.
So for now I will stop and continue when we will show the procedure of how we will harvest. So this event is still going. And group is still here, but it just will make a little break and you watch our next video.